When we think about conversion and life change, we often ask ourselves, what's harder, the transformation of someone who knows they've done wrong or that of a person who thinks they're righteous and good? To answer that question, we can look at a classic story that Jesus told in the Gospel. In the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector, we find two characters that represent two ways of looking at life. The Pharisee was a man who considered himself righteous and good. In his prayer, he boasted about his own deeds and how well he followed the laws. His hands were full of pride and self-sufficiency, showing, through his words, his perception of being superior to others. On the other hand, the publican was a tax collector known for his dishonesty and disgrace, social disdain. When he arrived at the temple, instead of bragging about his merits, the tax collector came with empty hands, a gesture that reflected his humility and his recognition of his need for forgiveness. The teaching of this parable is clear. Before God, there is no division between the righteous and sinners. We are all sinners, and true transformation begins with the recognition of our own imperfections and the willingness to ask for mercy. The publican, by accepting his condition and asking for forgiveness, received God's grace. The Pharisee, on the other hand, by not recognizing his need for repentance and by becoming filled with pride, was left with his hands full of his own justifications. Conversion and true change are more difficult for those who believe themselves to be righteous and good. Because of his pride and self-sacrifice, complacency prevents them from seeing their need for God's grace. Those who recognize their condition and humbly present themselves with empty hands are open to receiving the forgiveness and transformation that only God can offer. Are we willing to acknowledge our weaknesses and seek God's grace with humility, or are we so full of our own pride that we leave no room for divine mercy? These are words of life. God resists the proud and gives grace to the humble. James 4 verse 6.